Aloha nerds, and welcome back to the Salawag's Why It's Great Gut Reaction, where I watch things and react from the gut. So here we are. I just saw the finale of Barry, the series finale, season 4, episode 8. And I'll have to admit, it's a little bit anticlimactic, but at the same time, it was everything that it had everything I needed from it. And even though maybe I wanted more, I still don't feel like I was necessarily cheated out of anything. For those of you who haven't been watching, Barry is a show about a hitman who discovers that he has a love for acting. This show has been created by, written by, directed by, and starring Bill Hader. Bill Hader, really phenomenal actor. I'm just with the general audience here, where I only really know. Let me just adjust this head framing. See that? I don't like lots of headroom. I think that's weird. Uh, even let me. Do I look better like this? No. But anyway, I'm with most audiences where I don't really know Bill Hader's work outside of a lot of his sort of small comedic roles. I think SNL probably the biggest way that I know him. But I do know from watching movies and shows for so long that a lot of actors get pigeonholed. They get typecast over and over and over to play the same thing over and over and over again. And much like I felt True Story was eye opening for me in terms of seeing what Kevin Hart can bring dramatically. Like if you haven't seen True Story, that show really, I was not surprised at what a great job Wesley Snipes did, but I was really surprised at how emotional and real and raw Kevin Hart could be, because he really feels just like a real person for the first time, as opposed to like a comedic caricature that he typically does a great job playing. And I feel very much the same way with Bill Hader. It's like with both Barry and with True Story, this here's an actor who now is producing his work, really getting to show audiences what they can do dramatically. And I what I love is he finds the in, like, oh, you think I'm funny, haha guy? Okay. Here's me playing a completely kind of deadpan, cold, real person that you might run into in the street. And what I like with Barry's backstory, he's a soldier, and they even go so far as when he's in his acting class and is being taught by Gene Cousineau, played by the incredible Henry Winkler. When he's in class, his whole problem is that he's not an open person, and very much he doesn't want to open up about his life because he's a hitman, and they're trying to get him to open up. And there's an episode where he tells a real story about his first kill as a soldier, and these actors are trying to act it out as he says it, and they're doing completely dramatic, unrealistic, unbelievable things that have nothing to do with his actual experience. But he is actually opening up and being quite straightforward with what he's saying, and you realize the real world is oftentimes not as dramatic as we dramatize in movies. Sometimes we make movies entertaining, and it's like it's not really entertaining when you can sort of see through the nonsense. And sometimes real life is actually much more dramatic. But that's what I really appreciate about both Bill Hader's performance in that scene. Is like you could see he looks like a real guy. I went to Academy of Art when I was studying film, and it was a great, for me, it was a really great educational experience. I really learned a lot. I lucked out, and every teacher I had, for the most part, was 10 years plus a professional veteran working in the film industry and television industry, and the wisdom that they had, I apply to everything I do. I'm not saying that I'm necessarily a great artist, but I appreciate that I was able to get this wisdom and still apply it to the work that I do. But even in there was a student who was a military vet, and this is at the time I'm going to school. This is 2007 to 2012, and this guy, he went in the Afghanistan and Iraq wars, and and he was just such a real dude, and out of all of us, I think he really had the most authentic writing style, where the characters just felt like real people, and the dialogue felt like authentic, not trying to be dramatic or anything in an unnecessary way. always reframing. I was really affected by that, and I thought, man, like I wish I could have that. Like he has a real honesty to his writing that the rest of us we're all trying to do some kind of Hollywood thing, and he just comes out and does something very real. Even though I mean it was debatable which one of us was the best writer. I think there was one or two students in that class who were like heads above the rest of us, and I was just trying to be one of those guys, but we were still all affected by like, hey, this guy wrote something that felt really real. It's got fiction elements, but the truth always shines through in anything that you make, and that was something. So I kind of got that kind of reflexive moment watching Barry. It's like I really appreciate the level of honesty and reality that comes with Barry and some of the other characters. I think Barry is probably the most realistic human being in the show to a point. And I really love, in my last video, I talked about the season 2 finale and how he literally walks into darkness. And I know I'm not even talking about the series finale yet, bear with me. But I just really want to just give my love to the show overall because I really love season 3. In season 3, Barry was so manic. And he's got Gene Cousineau, who's figured out that he killed his love interest in the first season. He's literally got Henry Winkler in the trunk of his car, and he's bringing him food, but he's keeping him in the trunk of his car so he doesn't have to kill him in his own mind. And he's trying to get him a job to make up for, as if that would make up for killing someone you care about, as if somehow that would make up for anything. And one of the beautiful things that happens in this show is actually he does get Gene a job, and at first it's a role with no lines, and then because he fights so hard to get Gene a job, and because he's so honest and real. Every time Barry is honest and real, he affects people, and they are like, "Okay, you gotta. I feel it from you. You got something." He affects people, and he fights so hard to get Henry Winkler a job that he does, and he gets him a line. And for those of you who don't know, for just generic people who are not filmmakers, when you're just an extra, you're paid scale, and the normal pay. I was an extra just one time on 13 Reasons Why. I was so far in the background and out of focus, you'll never find me. But I was, who knows if they even used that take or the shot, because I was just so far behind a crowd of other extras. There's no way you could ever see me. But if you're an extra, especially like a first time extra, I was only paid like $100 or $120. I think that was like their scale. And I did the little thing where here, take out the taxes. But anyhow, but if you have a line, that means you're paid more, and that means you are on camera. They are giving you, at the very least, a medium shot, and that means you're in the film. You might hit the cutting room floor, but at the very least, you got a shot at being in the film or the show. And even though throughout so many episodes, Henry Winkler is just he's still traumatized. Season 2, he's so traumatized, but season 3, he's traumatized and in the state of just absolute fear because Barry has him essentially under his thumb. He literally escapes at one point, gets to his son's house, and his son and his grandson are with Barry, and Barry tells him, if you don't do what I say, your son and grandchild go bye bye. And after all of that, he Barry manages to get this guy a job and a line, which means higher pay. You're going to be on screen. You're going to say a line. People are going to see you, and you see just this little moment of Henry Winkler going, "You got me a job with a line," and you see he's so touched and he's affected by Barry's genuine attempt to help him. And we find out in Barry's struggles that apparently Gene Cousineau has been a real arrogant jerk and turned a lot of people off because of his behavior throughout his younger years. And what I find so beautiful is actually, and spoilers, if you haven't seen Barry season 3 or beyond at this point, I'm just spoiling it all, as if I hadn't spoiled it all already. Later on in the season, Barry finally goes to jail for what he's done and manages to escape. But during Barry's jail time, Gene actually finds more and more success because people are so affected by Barry's story that Gene had helped him get over his traumas and fears and his fear of being a person since leaving the military. The acting had really saved his life. That story got around, and people then were like, oh God, Gene's not this horrible person that he used to be. He's a good person. And then Gene starts doing what Barry did for him. He tries to help out and apologize to people that he hurt. And it's such a touching story arc. I can't believe how good the story arc for Henry Winkler is. It's a character that, and what I love is that they stay on the death of his love interests. Her name slips me right now, but she was so fantastic in that first season. She was the detective who was looking for Barry the whole time anyway. And I just I love that they didn't let that go. One of the all the things that I hate about television, when people die left and right, and then everyone's just okay the next day. It's just so bizarre. It's just like, no, I don't think you would be. Even if you did not know this person, if people are dying left and right next to you, that's going to have some kind of long term effect on you, some kind of cumulative effect. It's not just going to go over your head unless you are some kind of sociopath or psychopath. It just really makes no sense to just, yeah, it's fine. There would be some kind of, and I love that this show was honest and true about that. Like, no, this would affect you every day. Even if you didn't verbalize it, it would affect you every day. And very much Henry Winkler's life is destroyed by everything that Barry does, even literally to the end. And I really love that when we get into season 4 and Barry escapes prison, and Stephen Root, who just does a phenomenal job as well. I think he played a version of this character in RoboCop 3 where he was part of the Renegades who were fighting the corrupt Omnicorp. The Renegades who RoboCop joins, the Renegades save him, and they have a doctor. They have the the engineer doctor who worked for Omnicorp as part of their crew, and she helps. Oh, she is so beautiful, and she helps save RoboCop. But anyway, Stephen Root is in that movie, and he plays one of the renegades who betrays the renegades to Omnicorp and gets their base destroyed. He's playing basically that character, but if he just kept doing that, I assume if he just kept going on, uh, being sort of a con artist and screwing people over to get over his little wins, and basically there's this sort of mostly untold story of sort of familial deep familiar relationship between Stephen Root's character Fuchs and Barry, where he knew him as a kid, and now as an adult, as an ex-military guy, he took advantage of his skills to turn him into a hitman, and unfortunately Barry wanted to get out, and there's just this sort of back and forth game of Barry trying to leave and being forced to come back, and realizing Fuchs keeps manipulating situations to force Barry to stay as a hitman and just keep doing this. And this unfortunate back and forth game ends with these two really being utterly head to head, to the point where they both go to jail and both of them are willing to sell each other out. But Fuchs, at the last moment, does not, and ends up really paying for his crimes, and stays in jail for what he does. And I love that season 4 we also see NoHo Hank, who has been way too nice of a guy to be a criminal in the first place. Again, in my season 2 review, I talked about it's adorable how the criminals are adorable people who are kind of fun. It's just like, wow, I mean, I'm sure some are, but that's not exactly real life. But I really liked how in season 4 we see the growth of NoHo Hank as he becomes the cruel, cold gangster that he was basically being pushed to be by everyone he was around. And he has an antagonistic relationship with Fuchs now, who gets out of prison and basically takes control. And this is not something NoHo Hank can allow. But when it comes to when we get to the last 3 episodes, what I love is we have the time jump of 8 years. And when we get to the present, 2 episodes are really dedicated to Barry, post serial killer Barry, post hitman Barry, where he is being this very boring dad but a very good dad to his son. And Sally, played by Sarah Goldman, has really gotten to a place where even though she's not being the star like she wants to be, and unfortunately her toxic traits keep ruining everything for her, but even though she keeps trying to do things wrong, people see her talent and are willing to give her an amazing job with incredible pay that anyone with any brains, if you could just suck up the ego and just ride like the greatest opportunity to work with all these great filmmakers, she still won't take it, because all she wants is to be the star of a show, of a movie, to be the one everyone listens to. She has such a neurotic control problem, and such an ego, and such a controlling narcissistic ego, that she can't accept such an amazing opportunity to really to do better work than she's done ever before. Because it would mean, at the very least in the short term, she wouldn't be the star of a movie. And it's sad. It's just sad that she'll destroy her own success because it's not the short-term success that she wants. And it ends up with her, she has a tragic little history of having a very abusive husband in the past. And you see also maybe some of the control that she wants is because of that, because she wouldn't take control before. And so now she's over exerting, and she's over correcting in her present time. Uh, and actually, even though it's really sad seeing her in the 8-year time jump, that she's not really close to her son, and she's acting still. She's pretending to be they're in the middle of nowhere with Midwestern or Southern, or who knows where they are. Somewhere where you can buy guns at Walmart, no problem. But she's putting on the voice of everyone around her. She's got a black wig on, hiding her blonde hair. She won't dye her hair, but she puts a wig on. And even though it's kind of like her lowest point, I think it's kind of my favorite part of her story, just because I totally feel that way. I totally feel how she feels when she's just putting up with the regular day-to-day job and putting up with the regular day-to-day people, uh, knowing what she knows about herself and who she is, and knowing what she knows about Barry. And she's just sort of drifting. She's just kind of drifting in the wind with whatever happens, because of her guilt for killing someone in self-defense, someone who had come to kill Barry and ran into her first, and was just attacking her because why not? And she, in self-defense, killed this guy. It was not, I don't see it as a murder. She was defending herself. He was going to kill her, or worse. And but she still felt such tremendous guilt over it. And definitely because when she turned the tables around, he was screaming, "No, don't kill me." But at the same time, I'm like, that's to me, that was fair. I'm like, nah, that guy had it coming. Uh, but to see her in this low point, and to see her just kind of pushing through, I just thought, man, like, because she got so extreme in season 3 of how emotional she was. To see her just play almost nothing was really something. I thought, I really like this. I thought, I really always love when movies get real. I think what defines a blockbuster movie and a silly popcorn movie is, you know, like Avengers Age of Ultron, literally a city is about to be destroyed, and, you know, Hawkeye is joking about how he should remodel his house. And I'm like, you know, I don't think you would really be like that if literally buildings are falling on you. But what I like it in the real world, if you really are in this sort of situation that has all this combination of guilt and fear and running and being a fugitive, you might have a period of just being checked out. And she's checked out. She's an alcoholic. She's really in a really low point emotionally and psychologically. She's really at her emotional lowest, but she's still kind of for some reason persisting. And I like her arc that when we get to the finale, now we're finally talking about the finale. And Gene, who has been also hiding for 8 years, has resurfaced to try and stop the Barry movie because he doesn't want this whole thing sensationalized, and he doesn't want Barry remembered in some kind of highlighted kind of way. He's trying to stop it. But even then, because, you know, he might be played by Daniel Day-Lewis, he just has this ego boost where it's like, oh, I'd like to talk to Daniel Day-Lewis. You know, even then. But this becomes Barry's moment where, oh, I need to go kill this guy. And, you know, but at the end, NoHo Hank and Fuchs are duking it out, and they take each other out. Fuchs manages to survive, and actually, NoHo Hank had kidnapped Barry's wife and child. You know, the classic movie trope. But Fuchs, in the last moment, actually saves the child. It's like, it's almost like even though he hates Barry for turning on him, and he all his complicated feelings of feeling rejected in some kind of way, in the moment of seeing Barry's son, it's like, no, this is my chance for redemption for what I've done to this guy. I'll save his son so he can have his son, and the rest is done. And I really, it was anticlimactic for me to see. All right, it was anticlimactic for me to see. To not see Barry as a part of this final confrontation, and I really wanted more of Barry in the finale. I was a little bummed about that, but at the same time, I thought it was just so powerful when Barry is just late to the confrontation, and he just gets that moment with Fuchs, and you know, I just thought, wow, like that still really hit me. And then when Barry got his comeuppance with Gene, you know, he's you know, his wife and kid already left, but he's trying to find them, and he goes to Gene's house, and Gene kills him, shoots him twice. And I couldn't believe it, but at the same time I was like, good for Gene, you know, because Gene went through so much in 3 seasons, and then and went into hiding because of his absolute, and even shot his own son because he thought it was Barry, which is unfortunate for the son. But at the same time, he thought it was Barry to drive him to that state. There was really no other solution to this show. I was just like, yeah, I just thought, wow, you know, I it felt right. It just felt right, even though it was not what I wanted. It felt right, and it was tragic and sad, and it's so messed up, but beautiful that at the very end, Sally is just living a very humble life as a teacher, teaching students how to act, and people are loving her plays, and that's enough for her. Like, she just teaches some teenagers how to act, people enjoy the play, and she just appreciates the praise that she gets and walks away. There's no need for her to be the star of anything anymore. And at the very end, her son sees the Hollywood movie made about Barry and everything is completely wrong. And this is what happens. This is the truth. Because this show is great because, as much as it's a dark comedy, it's also funny because it's true. Where, you know, we get this amazing, you know, this amazing motorcycle action sequence in season 3, which I think, to me, is like the climactic action final action scene for Barry, because I just don't think you can top that, where Barry's getting chased by people on motorcycle trying to gun him down. But it's just so, it's funny because it's real how everyone just gets taken down in these kind of ridiculous ways of, yeah, well, that's what happens when you try to chase someone through traffic. You're gonna, some stupid awful accident's gonna happen to you, and that's how so many people get knocked taken down, not only by Barry's excellent military skill, but also because, yeah, well, what did you think was going to happen? You're doing this crazy stuff. The humor of it is what's real. I really love that sequence, but I don't know. I just, this finale just, it still got me. It still got me. But to have Hollywood get it completely wrong and dramatize everything and make heroes out of the wrong people because it sounds better as a story, it was just a perfect circle to Barry first opening up about his first kill in the military and his fellow acting students totally dramatizing it in the wrong way and getting every detail wrong, because how the hell would they know? They haven't had those experiences. Um, but that whole movie is like, it has Barry being the victim and Gene being the villain who did everything, and Barry having this heroic rescue of his wife and son at the end. It's so bad. It's so blatantly bad. I loved that. And then the son at the end thinks his dad's a hero. It's messed up. It's really confusing for the kid who kind of, I believe, knows the truth. Like, the mom admitted the truth to him, but I think he just gets this beautiful opportunity to see his dad in some kind of good light despite everything. And that kind of confusion and that kind of awkward hope is kind of the best part of the finale. That at least at the end, Barry's son still loves him. Something he did turned out well, and that part just gets me. I'm really a sucker for when you do it real, but also you give something to the character that, even though it's not what they initially wanted, it's still something that they would have needed. I was just really hit by it. So I just want to say, hats off to Bill Hader and cast and crew for another phenomenal show. Barry, I just thought from beginning to end was great. Even though I would have loved more of Barry and this and that, I don't take it as a retraction from the quality. I really think this was the right thing to do, even though it wasn't what I wanted. It was the right thing to do. I just felt like, damn, fantastic. And that's what I thought about the finale. I really thought the events, they were true to the entire series and what the series wanted to do. I really appreciate this really dry, realistic Coen movie sort of last 4 episodes or last 3 episodes of Barry. I think, to me, I love it when shows stay true to their voice and they stay true to what would be cinematically appropriate, as in, when things get serious, they're serious, no one's joking around, and you stay in that mode until the serious moment is over. And this show very much stuck true to that, where it's like, yeah, it's a dark comedy until it's just a drama, until the consequences of what happened are so big and so real, you cannot go back to just being a dark comedy. You have to stay true to what the story has going on. I think that is what I hate about so many shows and movies, is that they will set a very clear tone, and then they will break that tone because they think the audience needs a break. That's one of my problems with the Batman. It's like, it's so dark and serious, and then it has these really weird sitcom-y jokey moments that really don't feel right with the rest of the movie. But Barry does not do that. It starts off as this pure dark comedy, as pure as a dark comedy can get. And then when Barry is so manic and lost and driven to prove himself to Gene Cousineau, and even though he's got him basically with a gun to his head to not reveal the truth, I really loved Hader's performance in season 3, where he, for that whole season, or for the most of that season, he is just so lost and gone. And when the his military friend Albert shows up and catches him in the act of burying a body and screams at him, this needs to stop. I mean, that is so real, and it's just, and I relate to it too. I have my own history and of screwing up and making mistakes, and even in my own mind, I go to dark places I wish I never went, and I hate it, and I want that voice to tell me, just fucking stop going there, stop doing that to yourself, stop being this way to other people, because I related so much to Barry and Sally and Jean, because very much why I'm podcasting, why I sort of stepped away from film for 5 years. I made a short film that won awards, but why I haven't made anything since then, because I mean, there was just such issues of ego and narcissism, and even amongst my own friends who I made things with, that, and I'm not saying that I was innocent. I was totally one of them. It was, I would say, a problem all around with each one of us, like these intense personality issues that I just didn't want to deal with anymore. And I realized I need to correct myself before I can sit here and say something's wrong with someone else. I realized I needed to correct myself, and I was starting to, but I definitely wasn't far enough. And so I took a 5 year break from making anything film related, because I knew I needed to calm down and figure my stuff out. And that is why I relate so hard to this show, because to me, it's just a true representation of what it is to try to be a film or entertainment person. But the truth is, like, if you want to be there, you got to be there, and you got to be willing to take the hits, and you got to be willing to take opportunities that may not be necessarily what you want, but they could still get you there, but you have to be patient. And either way, you got to do the work. But I really appreciated, that's why I related to the hiatus where they're hiding for 8 years and they're doing regular jobs and all of this stuff. I'm like, that, I feel that, because I've screwed up and I needed to back away. And I mean, I didn't kill anyone or do any horrific crimes, but I still related to that needing to back away, reassess yourself, figure out yourself, and just ultimately come around to a full appreciation of what you have. I think the best arc is Sally at the end accepting her humble place, and realizing, maybe even though she has the talent and skill to truly be a star, she's just like, you know what, but I was a total jerk and a total asshole to everyone around me when I was there. I'm happy just teaching these kids and going about my life and having a simple life. And I thought that was so beautiful. The best possible ending for a character who had a dark history, and you knew that was influencing her bad choices. And I just relate to that so much. So I gotta say, hats off Sarah Goldman, Henry Winkler, Anthony Carrigan, Stephen Root, the whole cast. I swear they were just so fantastic, and absolutely to Bill Hader for putting this on. And I know he was a co-creator to this show. I'm sorry I don't have the name. I'm going to put the co-creator right here. But hats off to all of you for really doing a fantastic job. You really made a great show. It's going to be underappreciated, I think, for years, because it's not going to fit in all the boxes people want them to fix in. But, you know, screw the box. Screw the box. All right. And also, for those of you who are watching, if you've watched any of my previous stuff, I never had a rating system, but I do now. And it's going to be aloha and aloha hand. So one aloha means it's a very entertaining piece, and the other aloha means it's the filmmaking is very good on a technical level. You should, as filmmakers, you should watch this and study it for the what it can bring to you as an artist. So I'm giving Barry double aloha hands, because it's really entertaining right to the end, and it's also just so well made. The craftsmanship of it is perfect. The vision is consistent. I really appreciate going back to that bike chase with Bill Hader in his interviews on the HBO extras. He talks about, I didn't want this to be the coolest visually stunning thing. That wouldn't be true to the vision of Barry. It had to be sort of awkward and weird. And that awkwardness and realness kept it down to earth and kept it believable and kept it in the voice of Barry. That's what a vision is. That's what a director's vision is. This is everything I talk about when I'm talking about all the nonsense that doesn't make sense, that's very technical when I talk about movies. That's what I'm talking about. Hader's vision was so clear and consistent. It was a great voice. And I think it's what film and TV need. We need more just honest. It doesn't matter if you're a little bit more silly or whatever, but just make an honest show that when you do something dramatic that affects the rest of the characters, it should still affect them. And I appreciate Barry for really keeping that vision tight. Just fantastic. So double aloha hands. If that's entertaining, great filmmaking. Watch Barry, fantastic show. As a filmmaker, if your dream is to be a storyteller and a filmmaker, watch Barry and break it down. Watch it scene by scene. Really analyze what's happening in the scene, structurally, shot to shot, the tone, the sound design. Think about the dialogue and the choices being made in the story. That's the stuff of greatness. Is a very clear voice that effectively delivers the storytelling. So thank you very much for watching. If you want more from me, I do on Instagram TheSalawag's written reviews, where I definitely post much more. That's much more once or twice a week. I'll post something that I've just watched. Hashtag TheSalawag's written reviews at MJS Presents. That's where I'll be posting projects I'm working on, or just mostly reviews right now, because that's what I'm doing. So if these videos are not coming out fast enough, I know I only post like 10 per year so far. So who knows when this video will come out. But thank you very much for watching, and hats off to Bill Hader and crew. You were all fantastic. Please keep it up. And anyway, aloha. Take it easy.